Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you for permitting a time for citizens to present to you with important public issues for your consideration. I appreciate this opportunity. I'm here with the support of 112 Moscow residents and more who have joined in a letter that was written about a grant project involving improvements to Mountain View and an addition from Mountain View to Paradise Creek and East 3rd Street. It is part of a grant proposing a bridge over Paradise Creek at 3rd Street, just east of Hayes, to permit cars and trucks to have thorough access to Mountain View Road that I want you to take another look at. This project is subject to a grant called by the Federal Department of Transportation the Tiger Grant. I am coming to you tonight because I became aware of the proposal after it had been sent to Washington, D.C. I have lived in Moscow for 3 years. My house is right adjacent to the creek, on the west side of the creek. I understand this has a long and contentious history, including the restoration of the City Council in 2007 that called a halt to the development. The 2016 proposed bridge will invite more traffic and through the heart of Moscow, creating a 35-mile-an-hour arterial through the residential streets. This will create effects for the whole city that do not justify the $1 million price tag or the proposed travel time savings, according to the city's proposal. The problems the 3rd Street Bridge portion of the project brings are among the following, and more that contemporary traffic engineers and planners could share with you. Number one, 3rd Street and its environs will be less safe. Going forward with a car bridge and arterial design here will result in the loss of trees and plantings west along 3rd. An arterial and increased traffic would spell the end to parking on 3rd. Placing a bridge at 3rd, where it is proposed for cars and trucks, is not in the tradition of the best traffic practices for contemporary street design or for livable cities. Circulation east and west in Moscow is not substantially improved for the entire community. Any time saved in cross-town traffic for any reason is minimal, according to grant calculations. The true cost of the project for the entire community is not calculated in this proposal, despite its high cost and substantial amount of local tax dollars that would go towards the project. Failure to acknowledge and incorporate in the full scope of the grant project in its planning stages ignores a history of substantial, fact-based, design-oriented obligations or objections to a bridge for cars and trucks at 3rd Street on Paradise Creek. The grant lacks full, meaningful citizen comment from the 3rd Street residents and business people who would be most affected by this part of the larger proposal. So tonight what I'm asking for is that this discussion be placed on the agenda for the July 18th council meeting and consider that your grant proposal be modified so that the needed improvements on Mountain View can go forward and the unneeded destruction of a neighborhood and iconic image of Moscow can be saved. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bonjero. Others that would like to come up and speak? You can go ahead and sit down.
Okay.
Come on up, Lyndon. Tell us who you are and where you live, Linda, even though I know where I know you quite well.
Well, Mayor and City Council, thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. And also, I wanted to thank you for,
Linda, you need to tell us your name and address for the record,
I'm sorry,
please.
Linda Pike, 1026 East 3rd Street in Moscow. I wanted to thank you not only for allowing us to speak tonight, but I wanted to thank you for posting the information on the Tiger Grant on the city's webpage. I haven't had time to read it all, but I read through some of it, and I'm just so pleased to have that information readily available. I recognize that this grant covers a lot of ground. There are many projects included into this grant to improve the east side of Moscow. And I do thank the city for planning ahead and seeking the money. I was interested in the letters of support because they came from various organizations and businesses, and knowing the focus of some of those, it was interesting because there's so much going on with the grant, so many things that it'll do, that there are parts of it that I can see why some people would support it, but maybe not support the whole thing. But when you write the letter, it's supporting the entire grant. Anyway, I am here to speak on the topic, the same thing that Frank did, on the intermodal bridge across Paradise Creek. I'm opposed to this bridge supporting the vehicular traffic. However, I very much support a bike pedestrian bridge suitable for handicap access. This is in keeping with people and moving people in an environmental responsible manner. But I do oppose more traffic. I live on East 3rd, and I see the traffic in this densely populated part of town. There are 2 schools and 2 parks will be impacted, not to mention a very large apartment complex that houses many children and students. I see how fast and noisy the current traffic is, and bringing more traffic there is just plain wrong. Speed barriers would be more appropriate. It does not seem in keeping with Moscow's image to create a busy thoroughfare by East City Park, which hosts the Ren Fair, Rendezvous in the Park, concerts, and many other public and private events every summer. It is so nice now that 3rd Street is under construction because you can go to East City Park. It's so pleasant. And there's a wedding over there. I see different things. I go every day. It's heavily used by families with small children. More traffic just does not make sense and will create more traffic hazards and require more stops for safety. Why, one could ask, should my neighborhood be spared when other east-west streets are already carrying this motor traffic? Number 1, 3rd Street is the flattest street going east and west, and therefore should be reserved for people, not cars. Since 3rd goes all the way to the state line, it'll just become a corridor to divide the neighborhood in the city. And 3, the city allowed houses to be built right next to the creek on both sides, and with the proposed 2 bike lanes, 2 traffic lanes, and sidewalks on either side, these homes will be ruined by the city that allowed them to be built. More traffic through another neighborhood is not the answer to a good transportation plan. I ask council not to make things worse, and this will. Moscow bills itself as people-friendly, art-friendly, pedestrian bike-friendly. This vehicle bridge is none of those. I ask the council members to each walk down to the creek on either side on 3rd Street and spend a few minutes. You cannot visualize what this will do by looking at a PowerPoint or looking at a map. You must see it and think. It has to be seen in person. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. Linda, thank you. Others would like to speak?
My name is Loretta Campbell, and I live at 404 South Van Buren, Apartment 1, or as my primary residence, which is 402 South Main Street, because that's Hyperspud Sports, which is the business that I own. I'm not entirely positive that I can comment on what I want to comment on, though, because it's before you today.
Oh, you cannot. If it's on our agenda today, you cannot.
The only thing I will say is I really hope that I read a different outcome tomorrow in the paper than what I've been reading for the past several years. Because it's getting very tiring. And it's probably best that I can't continue to comment because I've been thinking this over all day in my head of what I would say. and I can't say it without sounding very scolding.
Okay, well,
So,
please sit down and enjoy our meeting. How's that?
the other comment I would make is also just in conjunction with what they're saying of, it's a little bit of a broader issue, but I think that all of Moscow in town should be 25 miles an hour. I think that there's no real reason that we should have part of 6, as an example, go to 30 miles an hour. You don't get anywhere faster. So,
Thank you. Others that would like to speak for us? Okay, with that portion, I'm going to stop the public comment, but I am going to respond to a couple of things because, Mr. Bonjero, I'm going to explain to you, you said you've lived here for 3 years, so I'm going to go back in history on things you don't know, and that started off in the 1999 Comprehensive Plan rewrite. And back then in 1999, it was discussed about a bridge going through 3rd Street to connect east and the west side of town. And then again, in the 2009 comp plan that was completed, and at one time we started at work in 2007 because I was a council president at that time. I was on the steering committee as well as Walter Steed, and I even believe Linda was on there as well, Linda Paul. And I'm going to read something from that comp plan of 2009, this document. It'll be noted as 7 years old, and this is on Section 3.9, it says the City's Transportation Commission, the City's Transportation Commission and City Council have previously discussed whether to construct a vehicle bridge across Paradise Creek in order to extend 3rd Street east to connect to Mountain View Road. Recently, citizens have questioned why a 3rd Street vehicular bridge had not been already constructed to reduce the amount of traffic flow on 6th Street, B Street, and Hayes Street. In the future of the city, should the study such a connection of 3rd Street to Mountain View Road and the impacts and benefits associated with to the adjacent neighborhoods and the community at large. So that was part of the Commission's transportation plan in the comp plan of 2009. And then in July of 2014, the multimodal transportation plan that was actually started prior to myself becoming a mayor in 2013 was brought before the council and approved, and it had the connection of 3rd Street Bridge as well as a vehicular bridge to connect the east and the west. And then more recently, on October 29th of 2015, the Transportation Commission endorsed that bridge as well. And so, you see, folks, yes, we do have a Tiger Grant out there, and yes, it includes a number of things, and we won't know the outcome of that Tiger Grant until in September or later than September. With that, I can, with confidence, say we're not going to go through and make an adjustment on that grant. We're going to go through with how it was wrote up because it was a very well thought after plan. The point that I want to make here is that there was many citizens involved in this that both were for the bridge and those that were against the bridge. So that has been something that's been going on for years. This isn't a decision that has been made lightly and in just a past few months by this council or this city. It's something that's been ongoing for 17 years. And so I just wanted to share that with you folks. Linda, you want to make a comment? Please get up here and state your name and your address, Linda, even though I've known you forever. And please limit your remarks to 3 minutes, Linda.
My name is Linda Paul. I live at the northeast corner of A and Jefferson, 304 East A. And I do not live on 3rd Street. I'm not near this proposed plan. However, I have followed the necessity for the community to have a livable, modern, and environmentally sound series of policies for the development of our community so that we can retain the quality of life that we have and certain icons of the community, such as the beautiful avenue along 3rd Street. And I simply wanted to remind the mayor that in 2007, the entire council voted to table and to reject the notion of a vehicular bridge along 3rd Street at the confluence of Paradise Creek and East 3rd. It seems to me that I've reviewed all of the recent documents. In 2013, when the current multimodal transportation plan was being considered, I was just recovering from, I was doing my death-defying act at that point, and recovering so that I would have days like this to come back and haunt you all for the fact that you do need to include in a very deliberate way the comprehensive view of livable cities. And this project is spectacularly bad, as it takes this little piece and proposes a vehicular bridge on 3rd. It does not advantage the grant at all. And I am so sorry to see that it got pasted on to what is really a needed policy and program, and I hope that the Mountain View portion is funded. But I can't support it if you insist on continuing this community-destroying part of it. So I hope that you will reconsider thinking about where the bridge part of this is going. Thank you for letting me have a moment.
Thank you, Linda. Well, you know, folks, if you look around our town, there's a number of things that have changed in the last 16, 17 years. All you have to do is drive out Mountain View and you see a really nice community ball playfield complex that was not there a few years back. You see all kinds of development on the east side of Mountain View that was never there up until the last decade or so. There is a 3rd Street development plan that's going right straight across Mountain View and a number of different homes that's been before. Planning and zoning, this council, that's been improved. So you see, as time goes on, things changes happen in our life. Now this, and I'll tell you what this mayor thinks. This mayor believes deeply in his heart that it is not going to destroy the value of this town, nor our integrity. And with our Tiger Grant, we do not know what we will or will not get. And so we're going to have to wait and assess that. We may not get anything. We don't know that. But we certainly put into it because it's part of the plan. As is with that 3rd Street bridge, there is other traffic calming devices like roundabouts and other such things, stoplights and some things of that nature as well. So there's more to it than just one piece of that Tiger Grant. There's multiple facets of that is very, very important to us. And so with that, folks, I'm going to close this discussion and move on, and we'll go on to the